Hello everyone and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World Daily with me, John Jordan. So what I'm going to go through today is the report that nonfungible.com has just brought out. So this is their yearly report, a little bit late because they were keeping it for NFT NYC, which was the NFT conference we were all at last week. So I'm not going to go through this in incredible detail because it's a very long report, but I think there are a few things kind of worth picking out. Okay, so I'm not going to go through any of the forwards or any of the kind of guff. I'm going to kind of get in. I do actually think these reports, having written a few reports in my time, less can be more in these scenarios. I'd much rather have a finely honed 20-page report than a slightly baggy 100-page report, but probably an argument for another time. So on the key things, NFT market capitalization. So this is interesting because the big change, I guess no surprise, was between 2017 and 2018. So we went from about $31 million in 2017 to $180 million of NFT market capitalization, however you exactly describe that. I'm not going to argue that one, but a big increase, almost 500% from 2017 to 2018. What happened in between 2018 and 2019? Not very much at all. So we went from $180 million in 2018 to about 210, so up 17%. Not nothing, but obviously with blockchain, we're always kind of waiting for this massive hockey stick explosion. It certainly didn't happen last year. Interestingly, I'm not quite sure how they come up with this figure, but their forecast for 2020 is a 50% increase to 315. Seems suspiciously round to me, 50% increase. Having seen how markets grown, you're either going to get like 3,000% or 17% again. Anyway, it's not my report. So how many crypto players? Hate the term crypto. I guess they mean how many people playing these blockchain games that use NFTs or blockchain services with NFTs. Again, the big jump was 2017 to 2018, where we went from 58,000 to 112,000. So that's 92% apparently. And 2019 was 113,000 from compared to 112,000. So up a massive 1%. I guess it vaguely interesting that the value went up more than the users. I mean, I guess those of us in the space, we didn't really see any massive takeoff in 2019. We didn't see like a big game coming in and people piling into it who were new. Obviously, the other thing I should point out is while this graph says how many crypto players, what they're actually measuring is wallet, so unique wallet addresses. I guess anyone in this space knows that we tend to have a lot of addresses, a lot of different wallets. I mean, this report is just really on Ethereum because that's where the NFT standards are and where the activity is. But even with Ethereum, it's free to create a wallet. I guess like lots of us, we have more than one wallet. Just put it that way. Again, they forecast 2020 148,000, up 30%. Again, another suspiciously round number. Won't go into that. So how much USD transferred? So this is looking at, let's have a look. I don't really know what transferred means. I guess it's some idea of kind of transactional value, I suppose. Interesting here that actually 2019 was actually down somewhat. So it's down 4%. So $153 million in terms of transactional volume in the sector. Compared to 159 million in 2018. I mean that's kind of broadly within what we've seen. We've not seen a lot of new users. We're seeing a bit more kind of money spent, but transferred means being kind of shared around. A graph of transactional volume over time. I mean, again, this is not really showing us very much. We have this big yellow spike in November 2017 when CryptoKitties was launched, but since then we've been well under that. So they're doing this monthly, and we're looking at, at a peak of about that's going to be a million. Whatever that's going to be, a million ETH, I suppose. I don't know. So graphs, I don't really know. Active addresses over time, again. So in terms of NFT ownership and this sort of stuff, which is more than just games, but mainly games, they're looking at about 23,000 at the end of December 2019. They've got 23,330. Broadly, knowing the DApp space as I do, we kind of have a broadly similar number, although counting slightly different things. of about 20,000 daily active unique wallets. So that broadly kind of makes sense with some other data that we've got, and to me that seems about right. That there are about, although this is different because this is over a month and my one's over a combined over many blockchains. But we're talking tens of thousands. I guess that's low tens of thousands. Go through that one. Smart contracts over time. So this is smart contracts are the bits of code that run on the blockchain. That's obviously going up fairly substantially because more projects are launching. Distribution per project. Now this is so this is looking at the major projects. I'm not really. I mean, these kind of graphs I don't think are terribly helpful. The main projects, I guess we know CryptoKitties, ZeroX Universe, My Crypto Heroes, Ethereum name service is interesting. That's not a game. Obviously, the Ethereum name service is a way of kind of bridging complex wallet addresses with human readable names. Gods Unchained, Blockchain Q is Axie Infinity. I mean, these games are going to be coming up again as we go through. So what's this user-based distribution per project? So what we're looking at, I'm just getting an idea of kind of scale here. I think this must be. I'm guessing this must be kind of active wallets. It's not very clear what the scale is here. Biggest game is My Crypto Heroes at let's have a look at that, 16,300. My CryptoKitty is 14,500. To me, that would seem to be all the active wallets of these projects over the entire year 2019. That would seem to me to be about right. My Crypto Heroes has about 3,000, 3,500 daily active unique wallets. CryptoKitty is up and down a lot, down to about 150. Gods Unchained, 9,600. USD transfer distribution over time. Again, this kind of, I guess this is kind of just showing some peaks where specific projects go live. So the Ethereum name service was pretty big in May. Gods Unchained was pretty big when it closed its Genesis card sale in October. USD transfer distribution per project. Gods Unchained, the biggest there. Kind of again seems to make sense. My Crypto Hero is about $6 million in the year. So these are not, however you want to chop up value. These are not kind of big projects. These are not Fortnite $2 billion of revenue a year. Skip through these ones. This is just a transaction. Okay. So this is kind of interesting. So this is kind of, they're trying to break it down into kind of categories and comparing 2019 to 2018. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I mean, if that's what they're seeing 2019 was smaller in every category, as far as I can see here, apart from trading card games, which would be Gods Unchained. So I think we can flick over these. Unique active addresses by project typology. A lot of words here. So this is kind of looking at some sort of idea of user base, RPGs and strategy games up. I mean, I guess that's Gods Unchained. My Crypto Heroes, I suppose. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. They're calling it hodlers, flippers, and whales. So they're looking to see the top 10 wallets and what they're interacting with. So we've done a bit of this at Dap Radar, looking at individual wallets, and it can be confusing. I think you have to be a little bit careful about being aware of how much knowledge you do or don't have, because we don't really know unless you're looking deeply into these wallets. Are these wallets attached to companies, or are they clearly attached to individuals, or this sort of thing? But anyway, I mean, it's kind of interesting that the range. I mean, the most. So this is looking at specifically people spending ETH or something like that and buying NFTs. So the biggest wallet spent $260,000 during the year. Looks like, hard to tell from the color scheme here, looks like mainly on Crypto Space Commander. Definitely there are some whales in that game. The other games that are looking like they had a lot of interest, Crypto Voxels, which I know is not really a game, more kind of an environment sort of thing, and Decentraland. Obviously we're going to see Decentraland come, just gone live now. There's been a lot of activity in terms of trying to invest into Decentraland. F1 Delta Time, we have just one. We know that's one wallet there. So that one wallet that did $1,111,000, that would seem to be the car that sold, the auction car that sold for that amount. And it looks like there's one big wallet with My Crypto Heroes. So I guess we kind of know that a lot of people who play crypto or blockchain games at the highest level are people who just have to have a lot of tens of hundreds of thousands of crypto lying around because they got into Ethereum at the right time. So no great surprise there. And if we go to, they've done some analysis here. They're breaking the whales down into kind of what they see as three types. So there's one people who just play one project, people who have a kind of major project they're interested in, but also kind of dabble, and then the people who are basically trying to find an edge anywhere and mess around. So we have Decentraland as the biggest project from that point of view. Crypto Space Commander, F1 Delta Time, Crypto Heroes, My Crypto Heroes, Axie Infinity. That kind of makes sense with kind of what I would agree with. So this is a seller's chart, different. So this is people who are selling. Again, I guess you have to be a little bit careful. It looks like the biggest one is $200,000 of Seminium space, which is again another VR kind of thing. That would strike me as that might be the developer or someone associated with the developer. Maybe not, but then the other ones are mainly Decentraland. So a lot of flipping of Decentraland assets. And again, Decentraland is by far and away the biggest kind of sector of this pie in terms of seller analysis. So $944,000 worth of Decentraland NFTs. When it comes to Decentraland, that's land. So it's a permanent land ERC 721 token. And there's been lots of analysis done of people trying to value Decentraland land depending on where it is in the world. I think now the game or the environment's gone live, we're going to see a lot of those assumptions perhaps change. Last one is flippers. So this is people who are kind of buying and selling. Interesting here, we actually, the first two big wallets, much smaller, they're measuring profit here. So looking like, what are we talking about? Almost $89,000 for the top wallet, and that was in CSC, Crypto Space Commander. So there's lots of, they had a big Star Trek sale that kind of went, some of them sold okay, some of them didn't, not so much. But obviously, the point of flipping is you buy something, then you can actually sell it on. So a big problem with lots of blockchain games is it's fairly easy to find people who can buy this stuff, but then it's very hard to find someone who will buy it off you, certainly for a profit. So the big two there, we have CSC. Should point out the game's not really out yet. I mean, it kind of is out in a beta, but not really kind of properly out yet, as much as any of these games are properly out. The next big, the remaining, what we got there, 6 wallets are all flipping Decentraland. So yeah, Decentraland was kind of the main project in all three of these cases. People buying, people selling, and obviously I guess the combination people flipping. CSC Space Commander, Crypto Space Commander, I should say, also in there, which is interesting because it's a game it's been around for a long time. It's not really had a lot of kind of prolonged interest. I know people are very interested in it. I know there are whales involved in that, but it's not really something that's kind of spread more widely like a My Crypto Heroes or something like that. It's quite a deep game. I have tried to play it. It's probably a bit beyond me, to be totally honest, to be traveling around in 3D space and doing lots of trading, and I haven't got that amount of time to throw out a game. But we'll see, I guess, in 2020 as it gets closer to some sort of formal release. So this is interesting. Project retention, again, this is something I've looked at for games. You don't really see much, not much variation between projects, I find here. So they're basically looking here at the retention of players within 3 months, 4 to 6 months, 5 to 9 months, and 10 months or more. And actually, you would kind of think with blockchain games, because people potentially own these NFTs, and you think owning NFT would be quite a strong retention mechanic, because you've paid some money to buy these things. You can't necessarily sell them on as quickly as you think you can, so you can continue to play the game. Looks like to me that a lot of these games, people just go, I spent $10 on an NFT, but I don't really care anymore. I'm moving on. Which would go into the kind of problems we have with UX and complexity, and the fact that people then have a bad experience. They spent $10, couldn't sell it on, and then not going to go back again. So most blockchain games seem to actually have fairly good retention in terms of 3 months retention. So we've got 0x Universe here at 77%, Axie Infinity at 80%, Blockchain Cuties 79%. I mean, all these games have, as we know, have pretty strong communities of different sizes. But when we get down to people who've been playing for 10 months or more, quite how that's measured, I'm not sure. 0x Universe, we've got 1%, Axie Infinity 4%, and Blockchain Cuties actually much better at 10%, but still pretty small engagement kind of models. What else we got? So Crypto Space Commander, again, I'm not quite sure what they're measuring there in terms of the smart contract. I think that's going to be much more to do with trading, because the game, I'm not sure is that well set up in terms of how it links to the blockchain. Anyway, CryptoKit is interesting. 90% retention over 3 months, but then down to 1% over 10 months. So again, we kind of see with these projects how much game is in there. when I played CryptoKitties, you could play it for about 3 months. You got interested in kind of getting some of these fancies, and then it just became kind of same old. There wasn't that kind of depth you would have potentially have in a more traditional game. Decentraland, they're at 83% over 3 months. Ethereum's pretty much dead or trying to be rebooted. Gods Unchained again. Gods Unchained, we're not measuring gameplay here, we're measuring people trading cards, so it's a different sort of thing. We'll just have to be a little bit careful. And I guess we're not seeing anything different here. Neon District, again, kind of interesting, very high, 98% on 3 months. Well, I imagine that's partly because a lot of their activity in pre-sales and unlocking kind of content was over the last 3 months. Obviously, over 10 months, there's 0% retained because it wasn't available 10 months ago. So a little bit question there over choosing your duration. This is interesting, asset liquidity. So this is kind of looking at an idea of what they're actually saying here. No, I don't actually know what they are saying here. Let's have a look. It's some idea of liquidity is obviously being available to buy and sell things. So this is not looking at liquidity of specific items. This is looking at kind of more generally, I guess, at kind of trading volumes. Liquidity is a very difficult thing to deal with NFTs. I mean, it's quite easy with stocks and shares and ERC20 tokens because they are obviously fungible, so it doesn't really matter what's being traded. NFTs be very important what's being traded because they're unique. So you might have in a sports game, you might have different seasons that will change over time. You might have as new kind of features of the game come in that might require you to or might mean certain NFTs are less valuable than they used to be. So liquidity is a difficult thing to measure. It is very important. So I'm not quite sure how they've measured this, and they've kind of looked to measure it over time. Again, that might be a bit dangerous. But anyway, so 0x Universe, I mean, I guess let's look at the ones with low liquidity. So Blockchain Cuties has low liquidity. That just means, I guess there's not much trading going on between players. Crypto Space Commander, I guess, because the game's not really live yet, so it has a very small fan base who are quite into it, and that's much higher. So we've got like a 48% liquidity percentage there. What that means. Decentraland, again, we've seen there's a lot of trading going on, so 45%. Axie Infinity, 31%. What else? Gods Unchained, very small at 3%, but that's because the marketplace only went live, and there is a vast amount. I mean, there's like 6 million cards, so it's never gonna have a high level of liquidity unless it has a lot of players. So nothing else really interesting. I mean, it's interesting. My Crypto Heroes, which I have played, its liquidity has kind of dropped quite a lot according to this over the from 2018 to 2019. 53% in 2018 and 20% in 2019. I think there's I'm not going to go into that one. And then Project Asset Price Evolution. This is looking at Decentraland land. I mean, again, I guess we broadly see, don't have to talk too much about what's going on here. This is a decline, and I think that's the biggest problem for me for blockchain games at the moment is it's very hard. It's very easy to or relatively easy to sell NFTs in the pre-sale. Very hard then to guarantee. Not you can't guarantee the price is going to go up, but very hard to do anything other than watch the price go down. Apart from doing obvious kind of weird things like press releases and kind of driving speculation, which is not necessarily good best kind of best practice. Penetration rates. This is looking at the overall players and what percentage of those play each game. I'm not sure this is how good this is in terms of looking at the overall player base. And it's quite so. I mean, My Crypto Heroes has like 26%, which is the highest. But we know My Crypto Heroes is mainly played by people in Japan, so I'm not quite sure how the My Crypto Heroes user base is broadly representative of the wider blockchain game space. Apart from the fact that the wider blockchain game space has a lot of Japanese people in it who play My Crypto Heroes, so it's kind of like a bit of a circular argument. So I'm not quite sure what we can generate from this. And so again, this is interesting. This is kind of stuff I've done in the past with mobile games, kind of creating kind of multi-axis diagrams and looking at things like, in this case, they've got the volume of trade, the volume of interactions, community retention, community size, and value of the assets. So again, quite complicated things, and we shouldn't read too much into this. I guess it gives you a broad idea of the characteristics of these projects, I suppose. So we can see something like Crypto Space Commander has a very different kind of shape to something like 0x Universe. So it's a good way of trying to put some sort of quantification on kind of gut feeling that we kind of have. Something like CryptoKitties, we can see here, has high volume of trades, high volume of interactivity, high community size, poor retention, and poor asset value of assets. I guess we need to think a little bit about what makes a good blockchain game. Obviously, kind of things like size of community and stuff can be that, but what does blockchain do particularly well? It's kind of about assets to me. That's what I kind of think. Not necessarily value of assets in terms of the dollar value of assets, but certainly liquidity of assets is something I think is pretty important. CryptoPunk's not a game at all, really, but obviously much more to do with asset speculation. So even though I think I'm not quite sure what we're kind of drawing from these kind of graphs, I think this is the most interesting thing actually in the report, because it's attempting to do some quite complex analysis. The problem that's kind of come across here, I guess I would say, is some of these things. So something like known origin. Known origin isn't a game. Known origin is people selling artwork. So it's kind of a bit of a kind of non sequitur to compare that with something like Gods Unchained, where actually it's not even people playing games. Gods Unchained is actually people trading cards, really. So that's a kind of in a sense they're both speculative, but one is kind of individual art things, whereas one is 6 million cards, which supposedly have some sort of utility if a game ever coalesces around Gods Unchained. So I don't want to come across as too negative, but I think the problem I've always had with looking at blockchain game data is it's very hard to make broad comparisons, because these projects are so specific in terms of what they're doing, particularly in their smart contracts. And when it comes to blockchain, really what we're doing is measuring smart contracts. But this does show. Okay, this is a good example. So My Crypto Heroes is fills the graph is the game that fills the graph best. So pretty much everything apart from volume of trades is on the axes. So it is a slightly truncated but nevertheless an almost complete pentagon, filling the axes. Whereas Neon District, the game's not live yet, so it doesn't have any of these things, and it just sits in the middle. So I guess you show something here, the comparison between a fully formed blockchain game that's been alive for over a year and has an audience and all that sort of good stuff, and Neon District, effectively still a project in pre-sale with a bit of community. I thought the community size would be a bit bigger anyway. By the by, so there we go. Thank you. So I do think these kind of reports are interesting, and having struggled kind of myself to kind of come up with them, I certainly don't want to come across as being overly negative to this. I do kind of come back to my original point. I just think there's much too much in here, and I think you're much better off thinking seriously about kind of what you think a blockchain game is about, and digging into that data. But the guys at nonfungible.com, they are doing a good job. They have a lot of data. Data is very difficult to deal with when there are no kind of set parameters to knowing how you deal with this sort of data. No one's done this before. So I just kind of think maybe honing their smarts and kind of going what are the 10 best graphs we've got, and we can probably lose the other things or put them in a separate report. Maybe the way to go. But anyway, it's free to get. I think you just have to put in your email and register. And there's lots of other good stuff going on at nonfungible.com. They are kind of expanding their kind of website and supporting more, tracking more games and putting more kind of useful data in there. So even if the report is a bit too chunky, I guess, and requires a lot of internal knowledge to make sense of it, definitely worth checking out nonfungible.com, which would give a kind of more kind of real-time overview of what's going on with some of these projects. Thanks for watching this long video, or if you listen to the podcast version, probably not the best one to listen to on a podcast, but maybe just go and track down the report. But thanks for watching, listening, and do subscribe, whichever channel you are interacting with, and do come back again when we will be talking about some other blockchain game news, because that's kind of what we do. Thanks for watching, listening. Hope to see you again soon.